Welcome. Today we're going to be judging black-eyed beans. Well, today as we sort through and evaluate these beans, again, I just want to kind of reiterate what I try to do with my students is that I first like to have them kind of break it into two parts, a general inspection and then a comparison before they give their reasons. So usually in the general inspection, it's kind of quick and just try to get general impressions. For instance, if we take a look at sample number 1 right here, one of the things that I notice right off the bat is that it's fairly clean. It looks uniform in its size, and in particular its size, because these beans are planted in air planters or seed plates that has very specific sizes of the holes they must fit in. So I think that's really important. I also look at it as a very clean sample. A few slips, that means the seed coats have slipped off. But for the most part, it's a clean, uniform sample. And I like the way it looks at this particular point. Now let's look at number 2. As I look at number 2, I see right off the top that the seed sizes are not very uniform. Kind of lacks that. But I like its cleanliness at this particular point. But as I sort through the sample, I can see some of the water damage that we have. So I'd make sure that I write that down. And also a lot more breaks, a lot more slips in this class. So it'll have to be cleaned a little bit more. So sample number 1 and number 2, we go through that with some general impressions. Number 1 being fairly clean and uniform, and sample number 2, a lot more damage to it, water damage as well as physical damage, and it lacks the uniformity that we're looking for in today's class. So let's go ahead and look at sample 3 and 4. Well, one of the first things you'll notice on sample number 3 is that you'll see another crop in it, that being dent corn. Dent corn isn't a huge deduction, but it is a reproducible factor. Remember, we're looking at reproducible factors versus non-reproducible factors. And definitely crops, weeds, and noxious weeds and other varieties are definitely deductions in our class today. Also, you notice a few shriveled and dried seeds in there as well. But really, outside of a couple of those things, I think this is a pretty good class. If we could take it back to the processor, change some screens, we could probably get rid of those dent corn seeds fairly easily, I think. And then when we look at sample number 4, again, not really clean looking sample. Looks like there's a lot of water damage in it, some broken seeds. It looks like some insect damage on them as well. And then as we kind of look around, well, right there you can see it. I'm pushing it around, and it's the white kidney bean. That's a difference in variety. So that's a little bit more deduction because, and then we find these small seeds. Not sure what they are at this particular point in time, but we have something else. Could be another crop, could be a weed seed. But one thing I do want to mention is when they're beans, bean growers are pretty particular. They like them very, very uniform in their size and their shape, their color, and their pattern. And when you get another bean inside that crop, that's kind of a big deal because it might cross-pollinate. And then, of course, then you get a lot of differences in the variety. And that's something that we try to avoid in the bean industry. So now we get into the comparisons classes, and when we do that, I try to get a little bit more detailed. At this particular point, I think 1 and 2 probably my closest 2, and 3 or 4 are my bottom pair, and I'm going to go with those at this particular point. This is a good time to start changing your mind and looking in a lot more depth. So let's take it sample number 1. I have put a scorecard in the lower portion so that each one of you can take a look at it and kind of compare what's in that sample. So let's get started. One of the things that I've noticed in this particular sample is you're going to notice some holes in some of the seed coats, and that is a chalcid wasp. And usually chalcid flies or chalcid wasps are parasitoid. In other words, they actually lay their eggs in other insects. But some of them actually lay their eggs inside of seeds and flowers and stems and roots. And this one does. Right there is a chalcidified damage. They put their ovipositor where they deposit their egg. So, and there's a few of them. There's another one right there. So we do have some chalcid wasp damage, but ultimately it looks in pretty good condition. It's uniform in size and shape. It's also its color. Very few breaks. It will have excellent germ, I believe. This plump seed lends you to also believe that it has some good carbohydrate and protein stores, which will allow it to germ very well and have very good seed vigor out in the field. So this one, I'm going to kind of probably keep it near the top, if not the top sample today. Now let's take a look at sample number 2. Sample number 2, when I first did it, I thought, this is probably a pretty good second sample. But as I take a closer look, I see there's a lot more water damage in it, and severe water damage, which means it probably came in too wet. It was stored on that wet condition, and now it's kind of burned some of these seeds. Also, the sizes are, well, wait a minute, let's say there's a Chalcid fly. Now, if you look right below that, let me back this up for just a second. If you look at let me back this up, and I want you to see this, because I noticed something I didn't see before. Right underneath the card, right there, that is a baby lima bean. That baby lima bean has now kind of changed my class, because when I see that, that is a difference in variety. And if you look in the difference on variety in the scorecard, as soon as I get rid of the cursor there, you'll notice that it's just underneath noxious weeds. So again, that's a big deal. That's going to be a bigger deduction. Probably is going to change where this fits in the class today. So I'm going to go ahead and play this so you can see the rest of it. So you definitely have that lima bean seed in there. You have some Chalcid damage. You've got insect damage. You've got some water damage. This particular sample is looking worse as I go into it. The seeds are of different uniformity and size. Not sure I'm going to use it in second place anymore. But that's why we do this, is we check it a second time after your general inspection. Okay, sample number 3. As I look at this one of the things I notice is it is fairly uniform. The seeds are plump. They tend to look as though they're very uniform in their size. And we should have some good seed vigor because of this plumpness and uniformity and good color as well. But it still has that mixture of the crop, which is the dent corn. Again, not a huge problem. When we consider what we saw in sample number 2, I think we're going to move sample number 3 up possibly in the second position, at least in my mind. And a little bit of water damage. They seem to all have a little bit of that, and that's usually because either poor storage or it came out of the field a little bit wetter than it should have, or maybe the weather conditions warranted that. So we're going to go to sample number 4. Now, sample number 4, one of the things I noticed right off is there's a lot of insect damage, and there's part of it. That's probably from a granary weevil. There's also Chalcid wasp damage, but I noticed on the left-hand side, let me see if I can stop this, right here, that is a white kidney bean. That white kidney bean, again, is just another... not crop, but another variety, which means that we're going to take another major deduction. So as we move along with that, we're going to just inspect some more. Outside of that, though, again, this seed, from a condition point of view, doesn't look very good. And then on top of that, now we got a couple more things to look at. Now that it's focused, if you notice very carefully on this, those seeds right in the center, and they are right here, these ones right here, those are alfalfa. Those alfalfa seeds are another crop. Not a huge deduction, but along with, of course, the white kidney field bean, it's going to be a problem, and this one's probably going to move right down to the bottom of the class because it has poor condition. It also has some uniformity problems, and the other thing is we're talking about pretty much a mixture of variety. So on this particular class, again, we have some damage. We have a lack of uniformity. We have some common crops. That's Ladino. And then, of course, a mixture of varieties. So this one kind of, at this particular point, I want to give my reasons. And as you can see, my placing is 1, 3, 2, 4 now that we've adjusted it for some of the other factors. Sir, I place this class of black-eyed beans in the order of 1, 3, 2, and 4. In my top place today, I put plate number 1. Plate number 1 was a very uniform in size and shape. I also like the fact that it was a very plump seed, which means it's going to have good seed vigor and compete favorably out in the field. This one also had a was free of things such as noxious weeds, other crops, and was free from most damage. There was some Chalcid wasp damage, but insignificant in my opinion. In second place today, I put plate number 3. Plate number 3 was also uniform and plump like the sample above it, but I had to place it second because it has another crop being dent corn, which means we're going to have to go ahead and clean it, which means there'll be a dockage fee accordingly, and there'll be a little less profit for the grower. So that's why I put number 3 in the second position today. In third place, I put plate number 2. Plate number 2 lacked the uniformity in its size. That size is going to get into where I believe in the planting, in particular, whether it be air planters or plate planters. The other thing that the reason I put it in third place today, because it had a mixture of variety. That was the lima bean. That lima bean also is going to reduce its purity from a varietal point of view. So that's why we placed it third. And then the last place today, I have plate number 4. Plate number 4 is probably the worst condition in the class today, having things like mechanical damage, insect damage, water damage, but also it's lacking uniformity in the size of the seed. So for these reasons, I placed this class of black-eyed beans in the order of 1, 3, 2, and 4. There you have it. I hope this has helped you, and we'll see you at the next contest.